Overall, I think an appointment such as this was coming, even if it was not right now. At some point in the future, you do expect like a man of Dr. Clarke's caliber to occupy one of those posts at the international multilateral financial institutions, be it the IMF, the World Bank, or the IDB.
To know that a Jamaican is going to be sitting very near to the seat of power in one of the most powerful institutions in the world, that's really certainly for our region.
The positive and the good that will come out of having someone like Dr. Clarke sitting in the third highest role in the IMF far outweighs the negatives. And I think the entire region will benefit from his appointment.
We're thankful for the service that he has given to the country and the steady hand he's shown. I think we've seen an improvement of our overall macroeconomics under his leadership and stewardship.
We obviously have the proper fiscal policies in place. So, no new taxes for 8 years now. We have a focus on bringing down the debt to GDP ratio and ensuring that we have an adequate fiscal surplus in place. So I think they've been managing well, and that in turn helps us to manage our exchange rate and our inflation rate. When we have something like that in place, the separation between the BOJ and the finance ministry is important. All those are policy initiatives which is not done by one person. So I don't think that with Dr. Clarke leaving that will have any disruptions to policy. What is going to be very important is that the person who replaces Dr. Clarke is someone that speaks with credibility and people have confidence in, because once that is in place, then I don't think that we're even going to notice that Dr. Clarke has left.
Dr. Clarke's departure comes at a critical juncture for our country as we face serious economic challenges, including the spiraling cost of living and the negative growth impact of the recent hurricane. The timing of Dr. Clarke's departure also brings into question the government's ability and commitment to addressing the ongoing economic burdens facing the Jamaican people. We are constrained to ask whether his move at this time signals the abandonment of a sinking ship, leaving the Jamaican population to grapple. We urge the government to provide immediate clarity on the transition plan for the Ministry of Finance, how it intends to manage the current economic pressures, and what strategies will be employed to mitigate the impact on the most vulnerable in the society.
No, I think congratulations are due to him. It is an important and well-deserved accolade for him to be appointed as one of the deputy managing directors, and an indication not just of his own accomplishments personally, but I think it puts the Caribbean and Jamaica and Latin America in a position to have a voice in the senior levels of the staff of the International Monetary Fund. While he is not likely to be directly overseeing Jamaica's programs, nevertheless, it is good to have somebody from the developing world able to empathize with, understand, and speak from experience about the situation in the emerging markets. So, yes, all told, that is good. Speaking personally, as I said to him myself earlier, I would hope that we'll be able to benefit in Jamaica from a voice, a considered voice, to reflect on the challenges of growth, which is something that has eluded us in the country, sustainable economic growth, and where I think the tenor of the debate globally is moving away from notions of trickle down and in the direction of clear-cut industrial policies and growth plans that would enable different countries in different situations to cross the line and enter the ranks of developed countries. And it's certainly it's a debate that is needed here in Jamaica and the Caribbean. And I think Nigel Clark's experience would make him an important contributor to such a debate. But I'm hopeful that despite the fact that he'll be, based elsewhere, that when such a debate gets underway, as I hope it will, and in Jamaica, and include not just, in fact, not even primarily the representatives of political parties, but other elements, other stakeholders in the country as well, that we'll be able to get some benefit from his experience and from his exposure to thinking in the wider world.
Yes, guys, so if you haven't already heard, Dr. Nigel Clark, Finance Minister of Jamaica, has been appointed to go to the IMF in Washington, D.C. The reaction at home is quite interesting. The opposition People's National Party, the president of the People's National Party, has yet to give a genuine congratulations as the former president just did, Dr. Peter Phillips. Instead, the General Secretary, Dayton Campbell, has been publicly giving a congratulations, but in the same breath saying that Nigel Clark is leaving behind potentially a sinking ship and all the panic that surrounds his statements. You heard it in the opening of this video. No such thing is happening. In fact, the IMF would not have appointed someone with a record of performance that is any less than what Nigel truly has on his resume. The IMF would not appoint someone to its managing position who has left his country or her country in financial shambles. So what Dayton Campbell is saying is nothing but propaganda and falsehood. You heard what Mr. Chang said. Mr. Dennis Chang, who is a financial analyst in Jamaica over the decades. I've listened to him many times, over different governments. And he basically said there's nothing to worry about. Everything is going to be okay. The policies are there. Nigel Clark isn't taking them with him to Washington, D.C., and we should be more concerned about his replacement. We have yet to hear a name, and Nigel is leaving on October 31st. Nonetheless, we should trust the judgment of the Prime Minister of Jamaica, Andrew Holness, because if he was able to appoint Nigel Clark, who, is the only person from the region, first from Jamaica, to ever be appointed to the top position at the IMF, if the government and the Prime Minister could have appointed a Nigel Clark, we should trust that they would find somebody equally competent to replace him. Nigel has been getting congratulations from people at home and abroad. We've heard from the Prime Minister of Barbados, Mia Mottley, where she said that it is a testament to the talent within our region and it sets a powerful example for all of us. Congratulations, she said, on behalf of the government of Barbados and the people. Brief information about the IMF and their relationship with Jamaica and Jamaica's status with the IMF. 190 countries are members of the IMF as of August 30th, 2023. Here you have the 7 countries that are not members of the IMF. They include Cuba, North Korea, and the Vatican. Like other countries, Jamaica has a long history with the IMF. I believe Jamaica joined the IMF in 1963 or 64. In 2010, we had a debt exchange. In 2011, we had an IMF-supported program that went off the rails. And in 2013, we had an extended fund facility. In 2016, We had a precautionary standby arrangement, which Jamaica weaned itself off of that year. In the year 2020, when the pandemic hit, we had an emergency financial assistance of about 520 million US dollars to help meet balance of payments needs caused by the COVID pandemic. So Jamaica last borrowed from the IMF on March 2nd of last year, when the IMF approved over 1.7 billion in funds to help the country protect itself from inflation, climate change, and other challenges. The funds were approved under the precautionary and liquidity line. It's important to share the qualification the IMF outlined and why they chose Mr. Clarke to work among them in their leadership roles. It's a congratulations for us here at JPU to Dr. Clarke, who starts his new job on October 31st in Washington, D.C. I'll come back and update you guys at a later date about his replacement, both as a parliamentarian and finance minister. I'm going to leave a video with you guys. I want you to hear this video because I want you to hear the things that were said about Nigel Clarke by Peter Bunting and the Reverend Garnet Roper in 2018.
There's a part of us that likes the Nigel Clarke type, you know.
So what is the Nigel Clarke type? Before we hear their definition of the Nigel Clarke type, let's look at Nigel Clarke. 52 years old, I think he is. He's a Rhodes Scholar, very well educated. He's a Jamaican. He's patriotic. He's a father and a husband. He was the country's finance minister for a while. He's a member of parliament. And he was just appointed to be one of the deputy leaders at the IMF. So what exactly is the Nigel Clarke type? We have a lot of Nigel Clarkes in Jamaica. We have a lot of them in the diaspora too. And we're proud of them. We love them. They're our fellow Jamaicans. Let us hear their definition of, quote, the Nigel Clarke type.
There is a son of a judge, son of a teacher, who then became children's advocate, Rhodes Scholar, bright at math. I'm not sure if he succeeded as much, as you would have thought his reputation has, and very, if you might say, British-esque in his persona and so on. What do you think are his kind of strengths or weaknesses, as you see it?
Well, I think Nigel is clearly somebody who is also, has outstanding academic achievement and qualifications. In a sense, he reminds me of the black Englishman of colonial times, the sort of who aspired to be sort of black royalty. Somebody like Hugh Small's father, Justice Small, was spoken about in those ways. You had somebody like Ludlow Moody, Dr. Ludlow Moody, who was Norman Manley's brother-in-law, very much in that sort of mold, the Esquire type. The Esquire type, great English, British education.
It kind of sounds like they're describing Mark Golding. British education, British this, British that. Except if they want to put him back in time where Nigel was, he would have been the master of that time. Wouldn't he? Let's listen.
And sort of, in a sense, mimicking the values and the affectations of the former colonial masters. So, the sort of classical music, appreciation, etc. Very much, in a sense, culturally contrasting with the sort of rural, down-to-earth ethos of Acacia Hill.
It's remarkable that it's not just about the kind of Jamaicanness and what it means to be Jamaican that is at issue.
Whoa, so they're questioning Nigel's Jamaicanness. Really? They went there. He's an Englishman. So who is more Jamaican? Whose Jamaicanness is more worthy of questioning? You want to see who really started the discrimination and who really started the classism in our politics? Continue listening.
I think also profoundly there is an issue about how is the parliament to be comprised. Is it to be comprised of people who live in the constituency?
Did he just say live in the constituency? Does this guy live in his? Okay.
Who represent in a very, real sense the aspirations, who understand the struggle.
Mr. Meme don't make my money already. Does he understand the struggle, or would he understand the struggle more than a Nigel Clark? Let's continue listening.
Struggle. Keisha Hale is 40 years, she claims, having lived in that country, is aware of the shortcomings and so on, versus the kind of technocrat type, if you don't mind the bullshit that so many of us are part of, who well-lettered, who come as experts. And there is a sense in which the suggestion is that the Jamaican people gravitate toward the expert type. And perhaps that's why we are where we are as a people. The real development has not taken place because more and more of the vehicles of the people's empowerment is taken away from them. Perhaps Keisha represents a chance to give the people more say.
Undoubtedly, I think we have inherited perhaps a certain elitism in terms of the profile of somebody we look for as a leader. But the truth is, if we consider parliament and politics as a vehicle through which the various interests and sectors in society are balanced, and you prevent, for example, a capitalist class and the free market excesses.
What a set of losers. What exactly were they probing? They were probing discrimination against Nigel, prejudice against Nigel. What a nasty thing to do. So I'm sure you heard that. He was endorsing Keisha Hale, who he said is a good teacher, good educator. If he had just endorsed her and told the people how good she was and how deserving. But he couldn't do that. He had to publicly demean, degrade, disrespect. I cannot find enough adjectives to use in how disgusting Peter Bunting's language was toward Nigel Clark. Nigel Clark is not an enemy of anybody. He's a Jamaican. We may have our political differences, but to be attacking Nigel Clark so viciously, making references to slavery and comparing him to black people during slavery, this, my friends, is one of the most vicious attacks that I have ever seen in any capacity on any human being. Congratulations, Nigel Clark. You have been vindicated. You have contributed to your country. You have represented your country in ways that they never will. You didn't get picked at the IMF just because you're good looking. You got picked for your attributes, your academic success, your success as a finance minister, your Jamaican-ness and patriotism, the way you carry yourself, the way you treat people. That's why you were picked, and it was clearly outlined by the head of the IMF. She spoke very highly of your academic success and your performance. Tell them to do that and beat you. Since the news broke, Nigel Clark has been trending on all platforms, in every mainstream media and every financial news. He's trending for being picked from Jamaica to be deputy leader at the IMF. Those who were probing and disrespecting Nigel, likening him to the black men of colonial times, wanting to be somebody. Where are they now? From what I heard, Garnet Roper, who is Reverend Garnet Roper, yes, speaking about other people the way he was. Unfortunately and sadly, Mr. Roper suffered a stroke. Last I heard, he was in a nursing home. I don't say that to rejoice because I don't do things like that. It is sad. You don't wish that on anybody. I'm just giving you an update to tell you where they are now. Peter Bunting is now out of a seat. He's not a member of parliament anymore. They voted him out. And he lost the presidency for the People's National Party. Guys, whatever we do in life, we must always try to do good and never to intentionally harm other people. This is the fight that we fight on this platform. And we do so with courage and we do so fearlessly. Keep it locked here to Jamaica Politics Uncovered for your latest political news, reviews, and update. Make sure you're subscribed and you have your notification on. I'll catch you in the next upload.